Hello, and welcome to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the injury market's top program for doctors, lawyers, and insurers who want to gain greater insight on how to improve patient recovery results and deliver better services in the U.S. injury market. Please welcome your host, Dr. Jeffrey Allen Kronk.
Okay, doctors, what I want to talk about today is how do I get unattached cases? How do I get unattached cases in my clinic is easy. In my experience, it requires two things, and just two things. One is you got to get good results, and you have to know you get good results. You have to know the injuries themselves, right? So if I know the injuries, I know there's only 3 injuries, I know there's only 3 derangement patterns. I either got non-disc ligament damage and I got excessive motion, or I got disc herniation, or I got combinations thereof. If I got excessive motion with a disc herniation, I got one of the worst spine ligament conditions that there is. I know what to do with that. I know how to treat it. I know how to co-manage it. I know how to get great results with it. I know what to do in the cranial-cervical junction. I know the cranial-cervical junction creates a lot of different symptoms. I know how to look for that injury. I know how to look for it in the chronic patient and in the injury patient. And I know what I'm doing with these injuries, and I get great results. Okay, if you're doing that, and you can do that, one, if that step's not in, you got to invest some education. Invest, man, because the ROI on understanding what I just said is so high. It's so astronomically high. It changes careers. It doubles and triples and quadruples lifetime earning. So you gotta really understand the condition that you're treating in order to get great results. And then once you understand it, you got to get great results. And that could be adding modalities. That could be adding additional things. That could be adding additional equipment into your clinic. It doesn't have to be expensive, but long term, you want to be really good at getting great results with your patients. And you want to invest your time and energy in getting that, because that makes you a rock star. Next, if you want to get unattached cases, you have to have simple messaging. That you have to have a system in place with simple messaging that basically allows people to start to differentiate you from other places. Now, some people call that a unique selling proposition, something unique, something that's going to make you stand out in the market, right? And you should have a system. When a patient comes in, they should come into a system of communication, right? The communication should be, when a person comes into a dental office, is the dentist talking about shoulders? Is the dentist talking about knees? Is the dentist talking about your hair? Is the dentist talking about your eyes or your ears? The dentist is talking about your teeth and how it relates to your health. And they do a great job of it. And they have a very unified message. It's a very simple message. Okay? Now, when it comes to the spine, it's the same thing. You have to have a unified message. The very thing that causes all chronic pain, almost in all cases, if it's a physical condition that's causing it, is previous trauma. Especially when it comes to the spine, how do you misalign the spine without in some way traumatizing it? So if you're a chiropractor that says, "Hey, I help with misalignments of the spine," then go a step further and say, what the hell causes a misalignment of the spine? Right? Because it's a trauma. The more you understand trauma, the more you understand everything that you do and how it relates. Trauma is the basis for everything that a modern day chiropractic clinic is doing. And I don't care if you're a wellness practice, you're a cash wellness practice, you're dealing with old injury. That's the majority of what drives people into you. Very rarely did I ever have somebody in my practice come in and say, I'm feeling really good. I want you to check out my spine. I'm 35 years old. I've never had a problem with it. Never had any damage to my spine. Never had an auto accident. Never had any pain. Never had anything. I just want you to come in, give me an examination. I want you to put me on a maintenance program. I'd like to come and see you one time per month. And I'd like to do that for the rest of my life. I never had anybody do that. And I don't know there are very many people that do. Most people start off with they have some sort of a problem. And as you help them with that problem and you educate them about the spine, then you become their chiropractor. Okay, you become the person, just like when somebody comes, you go in and you go, wow, I really like how this dentist operates. I like what he does. He's very, he or she keeps my teeth very healthy. They're my dentist. All right. So now let's talk about these unattached cases though. You got to have a communication system in place. You got to have, like, when the patient comes in and they're in on that, let's just say in that first day, what are you saying? What system do you have in place that starts to generate referrals, both for new injury cases and chronic pain cases on day one? What are your projects that you're doing? Because I have smart injury doctors all across the country, and they have a system in place. And that system is they're going to do some things right away. One, they're going to start communicating in such a way right in the consult that will start to generate referrals. When they're explaining exam results and what they're looking for, it may generate referrals. What they're explaining, what they're doing with stress radiology and what they're looking for may generate referrals. When they explain the significance of an injury that they're going to pick up that other doctors' offices do not pick up in their report of findings, they're going to be actually generating referrals. When they have materials that explains exactly what they're saying in the form of a patient pamphlet or booklet that the patient can read, they can take home, they can get a digital copy of, they can pass on to friends, they can pass on to their medical doctor, they can pass on to their attorney, you're basically starting to get referrals, right? When the patient gets in the clinic an automated email sequence that highlights these points that you're going over again and again and shows how it relates to their long-term well-being, their short-term well-being if they're injured, in the fact that it'll help to improve their results, but also their long-term well-being and things that they need to understand so that they can do one thing, two things actually. One, help themselves, and then two, another really important part, help others. And how do they help others? By communicating to others what it is that you've communicated to them. So your system has to be simple and your communication has to be simple. Simple communicates. Technical does not communicate. So you got to have a simple system. On that day two, they should be informed that they're getting an automated email sequence that will help them to explain further, to understand their injuries and understand the simple things that they can do to help themselves. And in the process of doing that, they will simply start to understand what makes you unique. And that will generate unattached cases. Now, you should also have communication things that you're doing on a regular basis. When the patient comes in, that's very important. That day one is very important. That report of findings day is very important. Anytime you're explaining any kind of imaging results, whether it's an excessive motion test or it's a disc herniation report or it's an MRI report or an excessive motion report, and you're explaining the findings to the patient, that's a really important day. When you're basically doing reevals, really important day. You can generate a lot of referrals with those days. But you should have a system from day one all the way to the end, all the way to you're releasing the patient and beyond. A lot of providers will say, hey, I want to get more unattached cases. I'll ask them, okay, well, how many patients do you have in your database? 5,000 people. Good. And how many communications about injury do you put out to that 5,000 person database? None. Zero. Good. Well, you've got 550, minimum 550 injury incidents in that database every year. And so unless you're communicating to your back end and you have a system for doing that, and you also have a message, like what's your message? Your messages can't be the same old watered down injury information that everybody else gives. It has to be something that's more definitive, more unique, more to the point. But you want to go to that back end, because a lot of practices today really miss the back end. In the Smart Injury Doctors program, we have a thing called staff training and building your internal referral machine, and it's implementing our materials into the clinic. So long term, you can start to generate internal referrals. Now, the largest ROI activity you can do is your own communication system within your own clinic. It's a long-term play. It's not a short-term play. It can provide patients short-term. We've had patients that have come in, doctors that have come in and started using our materials, and 2 weeks into using the internal referral materials, they picked up 12 new cases. Now, if you have a $10,000 case average, you picked up $120,000 worth of new business. How much would you pay to do that, doctor? Would you pay $1,000 to do that? Of course you would. You'd pay $10,000, you'd pay $20,000. And the biggest thing is you'd pay a lot more than that if when you walked away, you knew how to always do that. And that's the key. You got to have a system in place. And if you don't have a system, and let me tell you something about building systems like this. It is hard. It is really hard. That's why the majority of clinics don't have it. It's a really hard thing to do. It's not easy, right? And if you think right now, hey, you're listening to what I say, and you say, oh my gosh, that would be such a good idea. Yeah, I can really see where he's coming from. Okay, but now go try to take action on it. Go build yourself a system in the next 2 weeks. You're going to see you won't build a system like that in 2 years. And even then, you'll continuously tweak it. It's a hard thing to build. That's why clinics don't have them. That's why they don't have them. And that's why they struggle with unattached cases. It's not a hard thing to build, and we've already built it. In the Smart Injury Doctors program, we've already built it. And it's already aligned with the program, and it's something that once you put it in place, it just keeps giving. You will never get rid of it because it does, again, 2 things. One, it helps you to get better results. The more educated a patient is and the more they'll help you get results, the better your results are going to be. And then 2, it helps the patients to be able to very simply go out and communicate what makes you unique. And as the patients, as you're communicating, your materials are communicating, and now the final step is your patients are communicating what makes you unique. It doesn't get any better than that. Doctors, it's not that hard to get unattached cases. And it's a long-term strategy. For those of you that are interested in how we do that, call us at smartinjurydoctors.com. Check us out, www.smartinjurydoctors.com, or call us at 800-940-6513. You are wasting a lot of time if you don't have an internal system in place. And how much time are you going to waste? Are you going to waste like a year, 2 years, 10 years, 15 years? I mean, you're going to waste 15 years and then look back and go, oh my God, this is the most successful thing I ever did. And yet, I just wish I would have done it a lot earlier. Okay, doctors, if any of this resonates, take action. Give us a call. Put a system in place. It'll take a lot of the stress away of practice building. So, doctors, always short, sweet, to the point. I hope you got something from this. I look forward to delivering more content to you in the future. Thank you very much, as always, for your time and your attention.
You've been listening to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the #1 audio production show for professionals in the U.S. injury market that want to deliver better injury services to the patients, clients, or insureds they serve. If you like what you heard today, please leave us a review and don't forget to join us on our next program.